Imagine a world where science had no method, politics had no foundation, and logic had no rules. A world where some of humanity's greatest ideas had never been written. Now imagine one man changing all of that. He was the student of Plato, the teacher of Alexander the Great, and one of the most influential thinkers in human history. His ideas shaped philosophy, science, ethics, and education for more than 2,000 years, and their influence can still be felt today. But who was Aristotle beyond the legend? How did a young man from ancient Greece become the philosopher who changed the world? What inspired his revolutionary ideas, and why do they continue to shape the way we think? In today's episode, we'll uncover the extraordinary life of Aristotle, his journey, his discoveries, his triumphs, and the lasting legacy that transformed civilization forever. Stay with us because the story of Aristotle is far more fascinating than most people ever realize. Aristotle was born in 384 BC in the small Greek city of Stagira on the northern coast of Greece. Although Stagira was far from the bustling intellectual center of Athens, Aristotle's childhood placed him in a unique position. His father, Nicomachus, served as the personal physician to King Amyntas III of Macedon. From an early age, Aristotle was surrounded by discussions about medicine, biology, and the natural world. Watching his father study the human body and the mysteries of nature sparked a curiosity that would define the rest of his life. Tragedy struck when Aristotle lost both of his parents while he was still young. Raised by a guardian, he continued his education with remarkable determination. At the age of 17, he traveled to Athens, the greatest center of learning in the ancient world. There he entered Plato's Academy, the most famous school of philosophy in Greece. For nearly 20 years, Aristotle studied under Plato. The academy was filled with brilliant minds debating justice, truth, mathematics, politics, and the meaning of life. Aristotle quickly became one of Plato's brightest students. His intelligence and endless curiosity impressed everyone around him. While Plato believed that ultimate reality existed in perfect, invisible forms beyond the physical world, Aristotle gradually developed a different perspective. He believed that knowledge should begin with careful observation of the world around us. This difference in thinking did not make Aristotle an enemy of Plato. Instead, it marked the beginning of a new chapter in philosophy. Aristotle respected his teacher deeply, but believed that truth mattered more than loyalty. His famous attitude can be summarized in the saying, "Plato is dear to me, but dearer still is truth." When Plato died in 347 BC, many expected Aristotle to become the next leader of the academy. Instead, leadership passed to Plato's nephew. Aristotle left Athens and began years of travel, research, and teaching. During this period, he married Pythias, the niece of a ruler named Hermias, and continued studying plants, animals, and different forms of government. Several years later, Aristotle received an invitation that would change history forever. King Philip II of Macedon asked him to become the tutor of his young son, Alexander. That boy would later become known as Alexander the Great. Teaching Alexander was no ordinary responsibility. Aristotle introduced the future conqueror to philosophy, literature, ethics, politics, and science. He encouraged Alexander to admire Greek culture while also learning about the peoples and lands beyond Greece. Although historians still debate how much Aristotle influenced Alexander's later decisions, there is little doubt that the lessons he taught helped shape one of history's greatest military leaders. When Alexander became king, Aristotle returned to Athens and founded his own school called the Lyceum. Unlike Plato's Academy, Aristotle's school placed enormous importance on observation and research. Teachers and students often walked together while discussing ideas, earning them the nickname the Peripatetics, meaning those who walk about. The Lyceum soon became one of the greatest research centers of the ancient world. Aristotle and his students collected information on nearly every subject imaginable. They studied astronomy, biology, zoology, politics, ethics, poetry, logic, rhetoric, psychology, and even meteorology. Their goal was ambitious, to understand everything that could be known. One of Aristotle's greatest contributions was the development of formal logic. Before him, people certainly reasoned and argued, but Aristotle organized logical thinking into clear principles. He explained how conclusions should follow from evidence using syllogisms, structured arguments that remain influential even today. For example, all humans are mortal. Socrates is a human, therefore Socrates is mortal. This simple pattern became the foundation of logical reasoning for centuries. Universities across Europe continued teaching Aristotle's system well into the modern era. Aristotle also transformed the study of biology. Rather than relying on myths or speculation, he carefully observed living creatures. He examined fish, birds, insects, and marine animals, recording their characteristics in remarkable detail. Although some of his conclusions were incorrect by modern scientific standards, many were surprisingly accurate considering the limited tools available over 2,000 years ago. His commitment to observation inspired generations of scientists. Instead of asking only what the universe should be like, Aristotle insisted on examining what it actually was. Ethics was another field forever changed by Aristotle. He believed that happiness, or what he called eudaimonia, was the highest goal of human life. But happiness did not simply mean pleasure or wealth. Instead, true happiness came from living a life of virtue. According to Aristotle, virtues such as courage, honesty, generosity, patience, and wisdom were habits developed through practice. A courageous person was neither reckless nor cowardly. A generous person was neither wasteful nor selfish. Aristotle called this balance the golden mean, the idea that virtue often lies between two harmful extremes. These ideas continue to influence modern discussions about character, leadership, and personal development. Politics fascinated Aristotle as well. He carefully studied the governments of many Greek city-states, comparing their strengths and weaknesses. Rather than imagining an ideal society without evidence, he examined real governments and asked why some succeeded while others failed. He argued that governments should exist for the benefit of all citizens rather than serving only the wealthy or the powerful. His book, Politics, remains one of the most important works ever written on political philosophy. Aristotle's influence extended into literature too. In his famous work, Poetics, he analyzed drama and storytelling. He explained why tragedies move audiences emotionally and introduced concepts such as plot, character, conflict, and catharsis. Even today, writers and filmmakers continue using principles remarkably similar to those Aristotle described over 2,000 years ago. Perhaps even more astonishing was Aristotle's curiosity. Few people in history have attempted to master so many different fields. He refused to believe that knowledge should be divided into isolated subjects. To him, philosophy, science, politics, ethics, art, and nature were all connected parts of the same search for truth. Despite his extraordinary achievements, Aristotle's final years were filled with uncertainty. In 323 BC, Alexander the Great died unexpectedly. Anti-Macedonian feelings spread rapidly through Athens. Because Aristotle had close ties to the Macedonian royal family, he became a target of political hostility. Rather than risk suffering the same fate as Socrates, who had been executed decades earlier, Aristotle chose to leave Athens. According to tradition, he declared that he would not allow Athens to sin twice against philosophy. He settled in Chalcis on the island of Euboea, where he spent the last year of his life. In 322 BC, Aristotle died at the age of 62, yet his physical death marked only the beginning of his intellectual immortality. Over the centuries, many of Aristotle's original writings disappeared, but a large collection survived through dedicated scholars in the ancient world and later through Islamic and European civilizations. During the Islamic Golden Age, great thinkers translated, preserved, and expanded Aristotle's works, ensuring that his ideas would not vanish from history. Centuries later, European universities placed Aristotle at the center of higher education. His influence reached philosophers such as Thomas Aquinas, scientists such as Galileo, and countless scholars who built upon his ideas. Although modern science has corrected many of Aristotle's conclusions, his method of asking careful questions, observing evidence, and seeking logical explanations remains one of the foundations of intellectual inquiry. His greatest gift was not simply providing answers, it was teaching humanity how to think. Today, more than 2,300 years after his birth, Aristotle's legacy continues to shape classrooms, universities, courtrooms, governments, and scientific research around the world. His writings remind us that knowledge grows through curiosity, discipline, and the courage to question even the greatest authorities. From a young boy in Stagira to the teacher of Alexander the Great, from Plato's student to one of history's greatest philosophers, Aristotle's journey changed the course of civilization. His ideas crossed empires, survived wars, and inspired generations of thinkers who continued humanity's search for truth. Few individuals have influenced as many fields or left such a lasting mark on human history. That is why Aristotle is remembered not merely as a philosopher, but as one of the greatest minds the world has ever known. A man whose wisdom continues to guide humanity even after more than 2 millennia. As we reach the end of Aristotle's incredible journey, one thing becomes clear. True greatness is not measured by wealth, power, or fame, but by ideas that continue to inspire humanity across generations. More than 300 years after his death, Aristotle's wisdom still shapes the way we think, learn, lead, and understand the world around us. His life reminds us that curiosity is the beginning of knowledge, and that asking the right questions can change the course of history. From the classrooms of ancient Greece to modern universities, Aristotle's legacy lives on in every search for truth. If you enjoyed this journey through history, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Legends of History, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another fascinating story from the past. Share this video with friends and let us know in the comments, which historical figure should we explore next? Thank you for watching, and until our next adventure through history, keep learning, keep questioning, and remember, every legend has a story worth discovering.